I don't know if you ever thought you'd hear these words, but backed by popular demand is Eric Vanek on the RotoWire Dynasty podcast. How does that sound?
That sounds pretty good, man. Glad to be back and glad to be hanging out with you again.
Yeah, no, this is. By the way, I usually don't start off podcasts by saying the date. I never like people to feel like it's an old podcast. Like today's July 4th. Do you know? I mean, this is probably an obvious question, but do you know how many years old United States is?
250.
Yep, very good, very good. You're good at this. Do you know how many Do you know how many states there are in the United States?
Yeah, there's 50.
Oh, you ever ask that question to someone? They say 51 or they say 52, right? That's how you know they're an idiot.
Yeah.
Right, because they always count like Hawaii and Alaska as like two more.
Yeah. Yep. And they're trying to add other ones. Seems like
Canada.
We'll see. Yeah. Canada, Greenland. Who knows?
All right, I forgot about Greenland. All right. So we got a long show for you today, and I normally don't like to make these shows too long, but if I'm going to do it long, there's no better person than you to do that with, as I'm retweeting our podcast. And Eric, we're entering the part of the season where you're going to have to make some tough decisions for your dynasty roster. So I want to go through each team in the NFL and find a player that we're going to cut off our dynasty roster. And what I mean by that is, not the obvious one, like the guy who's on the practice squad, or maybe, but just some tough decisions that people that play in leagues that have 25, 30, deep, sometimes even 35 are going to have to make these decisions. And I want to help them, and you want to help them. And honestly, I just want you here to help me. I don't really care if anyone else gets that. So without you, this is an exercise that I've heard you do on your podcast. So I'm literally stealing the idea because I love it so much. You don't care that, right?
Nope, not at all. And hey, if I give you somebody that nobody's carrying, just call me out on my BS and tell me to pick somebody better.
Yeah, no, you and I, we do that. But by the way, you get a lot of credit on this podcast. You were early on a lot of players, which is like Deontay Thornton before, he was getting picked up, the rookie wide receiver on the Raiders. So, people notice that kind of stuff when you came on here. They said, what happened? Can we get that guy back on as we clean out our dynasty rosters?
Absolutely. I'm ready to do it.
All right, man. Buffalo Bills. Give me a player that's on the fringe that you're giving people permission to cut.
Yeah. So like when I was going through most of these teams earlier, I kind of just tend to go to the wide receiver position just because there's so many of them, and that's probably where we're going to cut. I don't really want to cut, anybody's top 3 running backs. There might be an exception or two as we go through. So I just wanted to give that up front, but most of these are going to be wide receivers. And the wide receiver here that I'm going to cut that I haven't seen on many waiver wires so far is Curtis Samuel. They brought in Palmer. They brought in Elijah Moore. Like, I think he's just kind of going to be on the back burner this year for me as Curtis Samuel. And I haven't seen him on too many waiver wires yet. So I would cut Curtis Samuel if you had him.
Right, and I agree. I had him as well because he's been hanging on to your dynasty roster. He was a player that everyone was like is going to be the next Christian McCaffrey. He's got rushing touchdown upside. Remember that from a few years ago? So clip him, pick up. Would you? And you said a lot of these guys are wide receivers. Would you pick up like a rookie running back that's still sitting out there, like a Kyle Manung guy or someone like that for him?
Yeah, if Mungnai is still out there, definitely picking him up.
Someone
he's
like
gotten
that.
A little bit of buzz. Yeah, like Khalil Mullings to Titans, even though he hasn't got much buzz, I didn't really like him. I'd probably still rather have him than Curtis Samuel.
Okay, and then and that's for like a 30 deep, for 25 deep. If you had to cut either Palmer or Elijah Moore, I know this is like we're holding both of those guys, but if you had to make a decision on one of those guys, which one goes?
I think I would cut Elijah Moore. I do like Josh Palmer, and there's not very many outside receivers on this team. Like, we know Khalil Shakir is in the slot. Elijah Moore can play both, but he's probably more of a slot guy. So I think Khalil Shakir has that slot job locked up. I would go with Palmer because I think he's one of their only outside receivers with Coleman.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to challenge you on that on every one. Say, you're going to give your deep league cut, which most of us play in these 30 deeps in these dynasty leagues. But then I'm going to go up for our 20 deep guys, for ones that just have like 20 bench, 20 total spots. All right. So Miami Dolphins, who we cutting?
Yeah. So on this one, they just never use a third wide receiver. So I think I'm going to cut. You can either one of these guys, Malik Washington or Nick Westbrook-Akine, who they brought in. I would be happy cutting either one of those two because they just never really used the third wide receiver under their head coach. I escapes my name at the moment.
Oh, Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel.
Isn't it weird? Like, that. It just, you forget
Yes,
it.
you
It's the
forget it,
craziest thing. I was on a podcast today. I forgot, Trey Benson's name. I'm like, that's so embarrassing to forget, but with me, you're good. So Malik Washington didn't really get an opportunity. He got hurt last year. So if he's sitting on the bench, I actually picked him up in a league. I forget. I think I cut, because I had one of those leagues where I had 6 backup quarterbacks, and I didn't want to cut any of them. I forget which one I did. It might have been Jacoby Brissett, who's now in Arizona. But I picked up Washington. You're saying because he's still out there, you're saying I should swap that back maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I like Malik Washington. I know the coach really likes him. They just never really used him last year. Obviously, he did get hurt. Yeah. But they brought in Westbrook Akine. Who's going to win the job there? I don't know.
Right. And Westbrook Akine, not great for fantasy unless you know the weeks he's going to go off, but he's a real fantasy, C blocker, right? For other players, right? He's good enough to play.
Yeah, like we say, roster clogger. He's just probably clogging it right now.
All right. And if you have to clip one of these running backs, who would it be? Of Madison, Ollie Gordon. I know you just drafted him, and then they have some dude on the and then they have Alex Ingold. We don't care about that. So if you have to clip Madison or Gordon, who would you clip?
Yeah, Madison for sure. If I had to pick one, that was going to be my deep cut guy, for sure. But he doesn't look like the same player that he was, 2-3 years ago when he was with the Vikings. He's kind of slowed down. He's probably getting towards the end of his career anyway. So yeah, it would be Madison.
All right, Eric Vanek, we're doing good here. See, this is the pace. I'm keeping, you do this exercise on your podcast, but this thing can go all day. You need me on there to keep the party moving when you and Adam or you and Scott do this stuff. So, all right. What are we? Oh, New England Patriots. This one's going to be interesting because there's a lot of roster cloggery, but there's a lot of upside here too.
Yeah, I would cut. I've seen Kendrick Bourne on some waiver wires. He would probably be a cut. I think I just don't really want to have Mac Hollins, even though he's probably going to start. Right. And he's older player. I would probably cut Mac Hollins. I kind of liked what Kayshon Boutte showed last year, so I kind of want to keep that hint of upside that he did show at some point. Maybe it continues this year. Mac Hollins is, just there's no upside there anymore. So I would be fine cutting him. Kendrick Bourne's another one.
You know why I think that's a hot take, but I like it. And when I say hot take, I don't mean you're such a hot take artist. That Mac Hollins right now is scheduled to start on this team. Right. So you're cutting a starter who Mac Hollins, for everything you said that's true. He's still a lock to get 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was really good last year with Buffalo. That couple years ago with Atlanta, he was like a waiver wire darling. Somebody you could start in lineup leagues. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, I feel like I'd be okay cutting him. And if somebody's gonna beat me with Mac Hollins starting him, then more power to you. Okay, if I drafted Jalen Polk last year at the 202, 203, what are you doing there? Yeah, honestly, it's probably a cut, but I get it if you want to hold on to him and just kind of see what a new regime does with him, how he looks in the preseason. But if it comes to preseason and he just hasn't hit anything, then yeah, I think he can go. What if right now, today, I offered you a 5th-round rookie pick next year for him? Would you take it, or you just want to see if there's any upside? For a 5th, yeah, I would just wait and see on that. If you offered me a 3rd, you can have them. No 3rd. I don't even know if I would even do a 4th, to be honest. Okay. I would just kind of wait. Okay, so you'd rather it go to 0 and just see than cash out for, pennies on the dollar. Exactly, yeah. Okay, good. So, these are questions people have. Which leads us back into our next team, which is the Jets, because I don't even know who you have on there, but I'm got questions about Malachi Corley, who I drafted at the 302 last year. Yep, I think that's who I would cut is Malachi Corley, and I would also put Alan Lazard on there too. I think both of those guys I would just cut. And even if Lazard ends up with Rodgers on Pittsburgh, you don't. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be valuable, but you don't think somebody might give you a 4th for him? You don't think he's worth holding just in case of that? It's not worth it. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. He had a couple good games last year, but I don't even know if Pittsburgh would pick him up, to be honest with you, because they have their own kind of logjam at wide receiver, it seems like. Again, just trying to tell a story that might net you a pick if you're just going to clip him. Right, yeah. Some of these depth charts as we get into, they're just so, lack of talent, and this is one of them. Yeah. Josh Reynolds you're holding? Yeah, Josh Reynolds, I'm going to hold. It sounds like he's going to start, and they just don't have many other options to throw to. So I could see him being the second or third option in this team. So I'm going to hold on to him.
And then I have a couple super deep rosters, 35 deep, where Xavier Gibson is sitting there, and I dropped him to pick up Darren Waller the other day when he became, when he popped. You agree on that one, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How much budget did you see Waller go for? What percent in your leagues?
I seen 100%. I had $1,000 budget on a league, and somebody spent their whole $1,000 on them. So,
do you think that's crazy, or you like that?
I think that's crazy for me personally. I personally was willing to go 30%, and
you're not getting them.
I mean, I did get them in probably 40% of my league, so I was happy. I have some exposure, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I went so in a league where, again, I know 1.5 is not that big of a premium, but
yeah,
if Waller can get you 11 fantasy points a week, I mean that where you have 2 or 3 flexes, man, that's a starter. So I got him. I spent 82% of budget in the league. I got him, but the runner-up bid was 77%.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it just kind of depends. Like I got him for $29, $31. So I got him for fairly cheap in some leagues. But I was willing to do that. Like I said, 30% I was willing to go. I got him in some, and some I didn't.
How about any of your too tight? I'm just curious. I don't want to get off the subject of cuts here, and by the way, everyone was making fun of me for spending 82%. I said, listen, I acknowledge that he may not even make the team, right?
Right.
And but with nothing on the waiver wire, like, sure, I'll miss out on getting Travis Homer in week 15 when he gets to start for some random team, but I'd rather take, again, I don't think Waller is going to be Raiders Waller, but 9 to 12 fantasy points a week in a 2 flex, 3 flex league. Come on. That's good for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind what you did, because when I look at the waiver wires over the last couple of seasons in my leagues, like, everyone is so smart nowadays. All of the players that could, if an injury happens, oh, this guy's next up, somebody owns him already. There's not like this Zach Stacy who comes out of nowhere, and I could pick him up off of waivers and he, becomes a really good player. Or back in the day, like the Packers, when Sam Gatto came in and he started there and was having a big run. Like, there's like guys like that. They don't exist anymore that are on the waiver wires. The only ones are like maybe the backup quarterbacks, but even the backup quarterbacks nowadays are all owned. So it's like there's really nobody to spend your waiver wire money on like that much. So when this opportunity comes up, you got to take it. So I don't blame you for spending 80% if that's how you felt.
Right, and there's $0 bids in those leagues. If there's not, then I'm going to pull it down a little bit. And everyone still says, "Oh, you don't get access to Brock Purdy when he pops in week 12." I was like, that is a once in a lifetime thing that a top 12 quarterback appears as the last round pick. So they're right. Well, I could do more on Waller, but we'll wait because I want to keep this exercise going. Eric, Ravens. Who you clipping from and by the way, I've been watching a lot of Mafia movie. That's why I'm using Mafia terminology here. It's like in my head, I watched Donnie Brasco. I heard him just interviewed on Joe Rogan, the real Donnie Brasco. Did you hear that? You heard that one?
No, I did not hear that one. No.
They had, what's his name? Joe Pistone on Joe Rogan. So I was just listening to Mafia stories. So I'm in that.
Nice. I'm going to have to go do that. I love Mafia stuff. So
yeah, I mean, Joe Pistone is the real Donnie Brasco. You're aware of that. With the movie. Yeah. So he tells all his great stories from.
Off topic, have you watched Mobland yet on Paramount?
So everyone's telling me to.
You have to.
Okay, I will listen to you because I trust you. But the people that have been telling me to, I don't trust. So if you're telling me now, here's my problem with it. I get annoyed by English accents.
Oh, there's a ton of that in there.
I know. So I'm willing to go in. Like, I get annoyed by subtitles, but I loved what was the one on Netflix about Pablo Escobar?
Oh,
Narcos. Right. Yeah. But it was so good that I didn't care. You know what I'm saying about this?
I think this is where you're gonna have it. Is there's a lot of that like English speak and their terminology and stuff that's in there, but it's really good.
Okay,
really.
Yeah,
good.
I can. It's like dating somebody. If they have a couple like things that annoy you, but there's other things that you like, you deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ravens, who we cutting?
Yeah, this one's tough too, just because there's really, the top 3 wide receivers. I still want to keep those guys. I want to keep the top 2 tight ends.
Well,
I think
name
the one
them.
that
Name them. So there's Bateman, Flowers, and who?
and Hopkins. I'll hold on to Hopkins just to see what happens. Any of the other receivers I probably don't want, but I don't think many people own them anyways. I think the guy that people still own that I would cut is Rasheen Ali, the 5th round pick from last year.
Running back.
Yeah, the running back. I think Justice Hill, they re-signed. Keaton Mitchell, I still like his upside. I just don't. Rasheen Ali didn't really do much for me last year, and I haven't seen him on too many waiver wires, so I would be able to cut him.
That's your first running back you cut.
Yeah.
You whacked.
Yeah. There's not too many other guys to cut. Like, nobody owns Tylan Wallace. Everyone dropped Devontae Walker last year. So there's really not too many people to cut.
How about, here's one. How about Cooper Rush? He's the backup to Lamar, which, by the way, strange backup for Lamar.
Right, yeah. That was one of the strangest signings because it's just total opposite styles. But
he's good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've held on to him. Me and Adam just did a draft together, and Lamar's our starter. We picked Cooper Rush in like the second to last round just so we had his backup. So I'd still hold on to him. Would
you drop Cooper Rush to pick up Waller if he was just sitting out there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Cooper Rush is a cut. It sounds like in 25 bench leagues and 30. Yeah, somewhere in the 25-30 is where you have to make that decision. All right, that's good. That's good. Yep. Look, because again, we're probably a week late on this podcast, but there's going to be another Waller type of situation, even if it isn't as appetizing. There's going to be some other player this summer where everyone's like, oh, I can't believe it, Yep. So, all right. Let's see. What's the next? Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So
I skipped around on you. I know. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. So on Pittsburgh, I'm gonna cut Calvin Austin. So that would be my guy. Just because I think Roman Wilson is coming along here. There's been some good positive rapport on him. I think he kind of takes that slot job where he was supposed to be. Robert Woods and DK Metcalf are going to be the starters. Nobody owns Robert Woods, but you know what? He's a veteran. Somebody that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to rely on. So I think he's going to start. I think that makes Calvin Austin like the 4th guy. And this team, they have Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith now. They're going to have 22 personnel out on the field most of the time. So like the slot receiver on this offense probably doesn't mean anything.
All right. So Calvin Austin, does the addition of Jonnu Smith, who's a pass catcher, also affect that? Like, I mean, meaning like, is that what led to your Calvin Austin cut?
Yeah, I mean, Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, I would have on the pecking order before Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson. So, yeah.
And then I'm just looking at the running back room. Obviously, how about Gainwell? You're going to hold on Gainwell?
Yeah, I'll hold on to him just because he has some receiving value. Like, if something were to happen to Jaylen Warren, I think Gainwell could kind of come in and do 80% of what Jaylen Warren did, especially in the pass game.
And then Trey Sermon cut. And how about Evan Hull?
Those guys are long gone, long time ago.
Okay.
I would say Darnell Washington's a cut too. Like,
the tight end from a couple years ago. Okay.
Yeah, like they might just convert him to left tackle at this point, to be honest.
Oh, you think that's in play? He's a good blocker?
Oh yeah, he's like a very, very good blocker. He's like 6'8", bigger guy. Yeah, I don't think he's worth anything, so he's a cut.
All right. I like this. All right. So let's go back to the Bengals. And, I told Eric we're going to do this in the R lads order. And I just like to keep you on your toes, man.
That's all good. All good.
All right. So I'm just going to call out a couple names and then you can get into Charlie Jones, he shouldn't be on your roster, correct?
Yeah, no.
So it's Ilya. How do you say it again? It's Andre Ilyasovas. How do you say it?
Osavas.
Osavas. So Osavas and Burton are the ones we're going to focus on here, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give Burton a small pass for last year. Like, he's still really talented. I want to kind of just see how things play out. Maybe he gets his act together in the second year. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but he's definitely on like the verge of my being cut. But I also haven't seen him on many waiver wires yet either.
He was had a
different.
Okay. I saw Burton get cut in a couple, and I immediately picked him up. Like, I put like a $12 bid, and there was a bunch of like $2 and $4. Like, people saw it. Like, there was like 7 bids on him, so people wanted him, but that was like the exception rather than the rule. So Burton, you're still rostering, even if there's a backup quarterback out there. How about like Marcus Mariota? If he's out there, would you rather have Mariota or Burton on your roster?
I think I would still hold on to Burton just because this is a Joe Burrow-led offense. if Osavas went down, Burton should be able to step in there for that and fill that spot. As long as he keeps his head on straight, he kind of seems like he's a knucklehead type. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully he can get it back together.
I always say buy the knucklehead. The Josh Gordons, the Martavis Bryans. I always buy the knucklehead because they're cheap. I bought Tyreek when he was considered a knucklehead.
Yeah. I actually have a different guy I would cut on this team, though.
Talk to me.
I would cut Zach Moss, to be honest with you.
That's interesting.
They brought in Samaje Perine, who they absolutely love. They didn't even want him to leave when he went to the Denver, but Denver just offered more money a couple of years ago. They drafted Taj Brooks. I just think Zach Moss, the writing's on the wall. They brought in 2 running backs this offseason. Zach Moss had the neck injury. I mean, we don't even know if he's going to be able to play this year. So I think I would be okay just cutting Zach Moss. It sounds like his career is probably on the short end anyway. So
right, like even if Chase Brown misses a week, like what are you going to pencil in Zach Moss for like 12 touches, which by the way is valuable, but it's like, if you don't think he's good and it's going to be P. Ryan, Taj Brooks, that's if you need a spot, I like that call, and especially since he's listed at RB2 on the depth chart right now, that just might be veteran respect.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then how about, Eric All, the tight end from a couple years ago, gone?
Yeah, he retoured the same ACL again last year. So, I think he's on the IR spot, so you could stash him if you wanted, but I'm cutting him. Like, guy who tears his ACL twice, not good success there.
Okay. All right. So when we go to the Cleveland Browns, I just want to start with the quarterback position. Which one of these guys are you keeping? And just go through all 5 of them. There's 5 viable ones, including Watson. Which ones are keeps? Which ones are cuts?
So Flacco, I'm going to keep. I firmly believe he's going to be the starter this year, and as long as he's healthy, should be the starter for every game. Kenny Pickett, I think, is the one that's on the outs for me. Even though they traded for him, it wasn't like a big trade or,
5th rounder.
Yeah, it is what it is, 5th rounder. But I think they could be able to trade him again at the end of training camp once, they figure out, hey, Flacco's going to be the starter. They're not going to cut Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders.
You don't think either of those have cut risk?
No, it's just because they drafted them, and both of them have played really well in the OTAs and stuff. All the stuff that's come out on them has been pretty solid. I think it's going to be Kenny Pickett's the guy on the outs. It's either going to be Flacco or Pickett who ends up being the starter. I think Flacco, knows the system, has played well in it, took the team to the playoffs with this system. So I think it would be Kenny Pickett for me. They could either trade him at the end of the offseason to another team or just flat out cut him.
And okay, all right. And which team you think is in most need of a backup quarterback right now in the NFL? So that Pickett could be traded, even if it's like a 7th rounder.
Ooh,
and I put you on the spot there, but
yeah.
I'm just let's look through the things. Who's Green Bay's backup? No, they have Malik Willis.
Yeah.
How about this? Yeah, I was gonna say Atlanta, but they have Kirk Cousins.
I can maybe seeing the Saints take a shot at him.
Right. How about Tennessee? Who's their secondary quarterback?
Tennessee's backup. That is why is that blanking on?
Oh, it's Will Levis, of course.
Will Levis, yep.
They're not. They don't need one. No.
Yeah.
Not a lot of spots is my point.
Raiders maybe because they have O'Connell and Cam Miller. Yeah, they could maybe upgrade that. I could see maybe Sean Payton over Jarrett Stidham. At Denver, I could see that.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, Kansas City always kicks the tires on these quarterbacks.
But they have, Kansas City has Minshew. He's like the best backup quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he's not bad. But it's just how the Eagles and Chiefs operate. They're a quarterback factory. That Andy Reid and those guys have always operated that way. So they're always kicking the tires on quarterbacks.
All right. So Cleveland, who are the players that you want to cut off our rosters?
Honestly, there's really not much. I could make the case for Deontay Johnson, but there's that thing in me that just says, man, he was still so really good. He just got the knucklehead factor to him for whatever reason last year.
Yeah.
But there's not a whole lot of depth here at all. I just don't see how he's not in starting 3 wide receiver sets on this team, to be honest with you.
All right.
If I had to pick the guy on this team, it's Kenny Pickett for me. I would cut him now.
All right.
And that's a big risk. He could be the starter, and I understand that. But even if he does start, I just don't think he's very good.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, there's so much uncertainty on the Cleveland Browns that you can't cut anybody because once the starters are announced and these guys, it'll kind of sort itself out. You know, if Deontay Johnson's cut and he's not signed, and there's still some veteran guys like Keenan Allen that might get signed ahead of him. So yeah, no, right now if you can hold them, hold them. But if you're forced to cut one of those wide receivers, who would it be?
Probably Deontay Johnson. Yeah.
Okay, that's sad. I traded him for Jerry Jeudy when Jeudy was down and Deontay was up.
And I saw some people cut Watson too, and people picked him up for like free. If he's out there on your waiver wires, just pick him up, and he's already on the IR, I believe. Just stash him on the IR and just see what happens. Like, I know he's.
What if you don't have an IR?
I'd still be willing to hold on to that guy just because somebody's going to give him a chance. He was way too talented before. Like, I know hasn't gone very good in Cleveland, but I'll still take the chance because there's a lot of upside still there if he returns to form, which might be gone, but I'll still take the chance.
I have him on one roster in our RotoWire league where it's 25 roster spots, and it's really killing me for 2 years, and there's no IR. I don't know. You know what the problem is? A lot of my guys at RotoWire, I love them, but they have like a redraft mentality sometimes in how they set up the dynasty leagues, and it is what it is. It's fine. They want a healthy waiver wire. I do get it, but now it affected me because I had JJ McCarthy last year and Watson just sitting there. I have 2 dead roster spots that I can't do anything with.
Right.
So yep. All right. Real quick, Eric, I just want to let everybody know RotoWire went through this amazing upgrade on the website, brand new app. You can see there's a refreshed look right here on the podcast. And it's fantasy football redraft season, even though we're doing Dynasty. So there's tons of new tools, draft planner, all that kind of good stuff. Go over to RotoWire right now. Use the code PURPLE, PURPLE, 25% off, one time only here. 25% off of your subscription, and that expires at the end of the day on July 7th. Now, if you hear this podcast sometime during the summer, because it is evergreen content, you could use code YouTube15 after July 7th and get 15% off. So still pretty damn good there. So Purple, 25% off till July 7th. Use code YouTube15 for 15% off after July 7th. And go check out RotoWire. It's some good stuff over there. They're polishing up their depth chart. But you know what? What a bad move by me. I should have used the RotoWire depth charts for this.
You could have, yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll start using those right now as we're moving forward. I'm closing out our lads. All right, Houston Texans, Eric. And you know what happens when I do long podcasts, and long for you is different than long for me. It's right. It's pee break time. So take us through the Houston Texans, okay, for 2 seconds while I take care of something over here.
Yeah, no problem. So on Houston, I think I would cut John Mechie. I haven't seen him on too many waiver wires yet. He's probably going to end up being a cut on this team anyways from when they do their cuts, just because Nico's there, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel, Tank Dell is probably going to be on IR all year. So they might keep Mechie, but even still, if he's the 5th wide receiver on this team, I'm cutting him. He just hasn't done anything in the NFL yet, hasn't shown any of the talent that he had coming out of Alabama. So I would be okay cutting him. I think a lot of people would ask about Dameon Pierce as well. I think I'd still hold on to Dameon Pierce just for now because I think he's a guy that could end up being cut and then somebody picks him up and he ends up being, the number 3 on somebody's team. But yeah, John Mechie would be the guy I cut here.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. Brevin Jordan clip, right? I mean, that's easy.
Yeah, he's good. I think Stover is probably going to be over him at some point. I really like, Luke Lachey. Shout out to Mike at South Harmon. He's a big Luke Lachey guy from Iowa. So yeah, I think Brevin Jordan would be a cut for me too.
Tank Dell, if you don't have an IR spot, would you take a fourth? Would you take a 4th round rookie pick for him?
Yeah, I would take whatever I could for him. If I had to cut him on a very shallow, it is what it is. I'll cut him because he's coming back from a really bad injury.
Do you think Nick Chubb is a lock to make the roster?
I don't want to say lock, but I believe in the talent. That guy's way too good. He works way too hard to not succeed. So yeah, I'm keeping Nick Chubb.
And by the way, I think Davis Mills, the backup quarterback, is out there in a few leagues. Yeah. So yeah, I'm picking him up if he was dropped as well. So any of those guys I'm cutting for Mills. And again, CJ Stroud, Lord forbid he misses a week or two. At least you have something in your super flex leagues,
Yeah, I mean, I think Davis Mills is definitely underrated. So that's a good call.
Okay, great. Indianapolis Colts, who are you cutting here? This has got to be wide receivers or tight ends, right?
Yeah, I would say pretty much every tight end not named Tyler Warren is gone. Mo Alley, Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. I still have a couple Jelani Woods.
Oh, wow. What's this? And Mallory, too?
Mallory too. Yeah, Mallory's gone. So all those guys I would cut. If I had to choose a wide receiver off this team that somebody owns, it would probably be Alec Pierce, but I would have a hard time cutting him just because he did show some flashes last year.
Adonai Mitchell, would you cut him in a like if you have 25 roster spots? I know what you're saying. I had this comment. Okay, to pick up who do you think is the best? Would you trade Adonai Mitchell for whoever the best backup quarterback is? Who do you think is the best backup right now?
Ooh,
here's a good one. Here's a good one. I'll give it a visit. If you own Jaden Daniels, would you trade Mitchell for Mariota in a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with that.
Okay, because you can't cut Mitchell.
Yeah, it's really hard to cut Mitchell just because you probably spent a high second round pick on him. He didn't really get a chance to get on the field last year, but I still really like the talent.
Okay, but you're okay moving him if he's like your ninth wide receiver, and you just have two quarterbacks on your roster like Jaden Daniels and like Tyler Shug or something like that, where you're just like, okay, so you all right, good, because I had that conversation.
I'd be willing to do that. I think I would hold on to Khalil Herbert too, just because he's a top 3 running back on this team. But I like DJ Giddens better personally. But I think Herbert could stick around for at least a year here.
Okay, so Herbert, because I was going to ask you about him. So you're holding him. I have to make a decision on him in a league. Either cut Herbert or Nick Mullins, who's the backup in Jacksonville now, I think, right?
Yeah, I think on that one I would cut Mullins just because I don't think he's that talented. I'd rather have Herbert.
Okay. All right. All right. Next team we are going to look at is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Speaking of them, right? Who are you cutting here?
Yeah, so I think on this one I would cut Parker Washington. Just of guys that people do own, because there's not too many on this team either that people own. So I think Parker Washington would be the guy that I would cut.
Would you cut Tank Bigsby in a 25 roster spot? You're trying to hold him.
No, I would hold him. If he ever got cut by Jacksonville or traded, he's going to have some value because, he showed really well last year. So I still want to hold on to him.
Just a side note here. What's going on with Bashal Tutin? Is he struggling in camp? Do you think he's going to be game day inactive possibly?
I don't want to say he's going to be game day inactive, but it sounds like he needs to pick up the system a little bit better. I saw a quote the other day where he needs, to work on his pass protection and all that. Everyone's making the big deal about, his first carry was a fumble. Like
if it was his 48th carry, they wouldn't have cared. But since it was his first.
Right, yeah, and he does have some fumble issues in his past. He's going to have to work on that and all that. But the GM drafted this guy. Like, he literally brought this guy up in the GM meeting that he had to get the job, like as a guy he was targeting and why he was targeting him. So, like, the GM really likes this guy. The coach likes this guy. He's just going to have to learn a little bit, and it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown, you're holding. I love having him on my rosters right now because he showed well last year.
He showed well, and they prioritized him and went to get him. So I'll definitely take him over Parker Washington.
Okay, we're going to do the last team in the AFC South, which is the Tennessee Titans, and then Eric's going to tell you what he has going on over at South Harmon Fantasy Football. Okay, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, there's not many guys to cut here, too. If I had to choose somebody, and I don't even know if anybody owns this guy, it would be Van Jefferson, who's a starting wide receiver for this team right now, and he's probably going to be starting the whole year. But
how about Burks? You going to cut Burks?
Oh, and that was another one I was going to bring up was Treylon Burks. It's time for him to go too.
You could just throw him out on the waiver wire. You're not.
Yeah, I've seen him on some waivers already. So yeah,
okay,
he can go.
And this you're not cutting Alec. How do you say his name? Amenor. He's getting buzz as like possible starter now, right?
He's gonna have to work at it. I think they took Chimere DK above him too, so I think DK is gonna be somebody who gets some look in there. Tyler Lockett they brought in as a veteran guy. Restrepo has chemistry with Cam Ward too, so I think all those guys are safe.
You're not cutting Tyler Lockett, right? You're like he's gonna be useful.
I think it's possible that you could cut him, but as of right now, I'd probably hold on to him.
All right, before we get
He's
to
on
the
the
AFC
fringe.
Okay, right. You're saying if you have to, you're not.
Yeah.
If he's yeah. Okay. I actually need him in the league. He's like my 5th receiver. So God forbid injuries or bye week. At least it's someone that's going to be on the field, right?
Yeah. Right.
All right. Before we get to the AFC West, Eric, quickly tell everybody because people love you when they hear you on this podcast. I got a lot of great feedback from you last time. They where can they hear what you're working on over at South Harmon Fantasy Football?
Yeah, so if you go over or search on any of your podcast feeds, South Harmon Fantasy Football, I'll be on there. My podcast drops every Thursday. It's called America's Game. We just had our 100th episode last week, so that was really cool. Did the 101st episode this week about some auction draft strategies, so that was a really good show. But yeah, at Eric Vanek NFL on X and at America's Game Pod on X as well. You can find me there.
Always one of my favorite follows. You know that. And I listen to your podcasts religiously. So do you have a new one up for 4th of July weekend?
Yeah. It just went up yesterday. So that was the auction draft strategy one.
4th of July, I went away one year to some area of Florida. I don't even remember where it was, but that's how I discovered you. I was looking for podcasts to download. And I downloaded, somehow, I forget how it came across, but I heard you guys doing a podcast similar to this where you're going through the roster. I was like, I love this stuff. So That's where it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe at this point, maybe 3. I don't remember. It was everyone always saying it was pre-COVID, right? So it's probably 2019, probably longer than that now. Is that possible?
It could be. It might be a little bit before that. Might have been on like Scott's feed when he does his Dynasty chill stuff.
It was not. It was definitely. Oh, I don't know. Okay, you know what? You're right. But I heard it was you and Adam doing this roster.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been a couple years ago then. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's where I fell in love with you, Eric. I'll always remember where it happened. Okay, Denver Broncos. Who we cutting?
Yeah, so let's see. On Denver, I think I would be willing to cut Jaleel McLaughlin.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dobbins is there, Harvey's there. Estimate they just drafted. Like McLaughlin's the 4th guy now. I just think that's probably somebody I'd be willing to cut. A lot of these wide receivers, Sutton, Mims, Vele, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, I think they still have a little bit of upside. I want to keep them. Troy Franklin's a guy, though, like you were talking about earlier, you might be able to deal him for a 3rd or a 4th. I think that's possible, too, if you needed to cut him.
And, I mean, I have one roster that's like 40 deep, and A.T. Perry sitting there. That's a boot him out the door, right?
Yeah, about a year ago, but
yeah. It's one of those where there's literally nobody. Like there's guys that aren't even in the NFL. Like I would pick up Keenan Allen if he was out there. He's not. I mean, there's
right.
Yep. I have Gronk. Yeah, like Gronk isn't even out there. Someone has him on this roster.
Jeez.
Well, it's just there's nothing. So you're saying even in that situation, A.T. Perry, goodbye.
I bet I could find somebody if I had to look at your team or your league.
I'm telling you, man. This is you know what? Let me pull it up while we're talking here. So, but how about the Chargers?
Yeah, so on the Chargers here, I would probably be okay cutting Mike Williams. Ooh. I know he just re-signed back there, but I think McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, I think all those guys are fairly safe. And I think another one I would consider cutting, I think Hassan Haskins has been cut everywhere. What do you think about Kamani Vidal? I think that's a guy I'd be willing to cut.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's, goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Because I could see Rocket Sanders even passing, because I really liked Rocket Sanders coming out of South Carolina. So I think he could pass up both of those guys.
All right, so I have that league open where I said there's nothing, and you're right. There are a couple players out here, and this is a different exercise, but just lightning round. This is who's out there. I guess I don't have A.T. Perry on that league, but I have like Zacchaeus on the roster, so he's a guy that we'll get to him. Yep. But here's the top 10 guys by projection that are available in this league. Will Dissly. You say yes.
Him.
You take him, okay. Kevon Turpin.
Yep, I would take him.
Mm-hmm.
Zacchaeus.
Robert Woods, you said you would, right?
Yeah, that's probably one I would do, yep.
Bourne is out there. P. Ryan
for sure. Bourne, no.
Okay, so you're right. P. Ryan is a little bit more. Let's do like 5 more. Tyler Boyd with no team.
No.
That's Stone Smart, Rucker, Bellinger.
No on those guys.
Yeah, I mean, then Tim Patrick is the next guy that has a pulse.
I probably would keep Zacchaeus over him.
Right. So
I would think P. Ryan definitely would be, because I think he has a legit shot to be the backup for the Bengals.
Yeah. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that right now as we're talking. It's nobody's gonna. And then you said Woods, you would grab in leagues, or you're not?
I mean, that one's tough. It's kind of the same, like it's an older guy, but I just think he's going to end up being the starter there for Pittsburgh, and Rodgers could lean on him a little bit.
Don't laugh. I'm picking Woods up right now. I'm cutting Amir Abdullah.
Oh, yeah. That's a guy on a team versus a guy who's not.
Right. I just haven't looked at this roster. This is, but you can see it is pretty deep league.
One thing on the Chargers I wanted to ask you, because I've struggled with this one. What do you do with Trey Lance?
Oh, I want him. Because I want Lance, and he's been cut in a bunch of leagues. I pick him up everywhere. And again, not that I ever think it's gonna be, but he is the backup, right? I mean, like he is.
No, he's the third quarterback. Tyler Heineke's above him.
See, okay, so you think that if I still want Lance and this is it, right? Like this is it. If it doesn't go well here, then I'm out. But if he does get a start, he's. But all the redraft rankers are going to have him in the top 15, right?
Possibly, but I mean, even with Dallas last year, like especially in the preseason, man, he was a pick machine. But I don't know. I struggle with him.
Yeah,
no, I don't care. I mean, I care about if he ends up starting. Like,
right.
I don't want him throwing 4 interceptions, getting me negative points.
Right. But I mean, you have to think with the coaching there. Like, isn't Greg Roman? You got to think like this is his poor broke man's Lamar Jackson sort of offense for him, right? Like that's what it would be.
Yeah, it would be a lot of running the ball, and hopefully he would get some rushing yards. But yeah, the passing would probably be gone.
Yeah, I'm looking at the depth chart now. Son of a bitch, Tyler Heineke got in there. I didn't realize. Yeah, so that makes it a little more dicey. But he would be my last. I have held him, and again, this isn't biased because I picked him up off waivers, so it's not like I drafted him in round 1 4 years ago, and so
right.
So you're on the fence with him. You're not holding him.
Yeah, I've cut him in a couple places where he was probably my last guy, and I felt okay with it.
Okay. I mean, would you rather have him or Heineke?
I mean, there's definitely more upside with Lance, but I think Heineke is the backup right now, so I think I would go with him.
All right, very good. Chiefs, who you cutting?
Yeah, so this one was another tough one. Like, I think if you still have Sky Moore or Juju Smith-Schuster, goodbye. Like, I'm kind of just done with those guys. Yeah, so I think those will probably be my two. I kind of have debated Kareem Hunt, but they did re-sign him, and he didn't play, like, terribly last year. Like, he wasn't very efficient, but he still played pretty decent. So I think I'm going to hold on to him. But I think I'd be Sky Moore and Juju. I haven't seen those guys on too many waivers, but it's time to cut those guys.
You see, you're getting a compliment here, by the way. I always stop the podcast. Yeah, look at this one. Eric, always a great guest, understands ball. He's a ball knower, and you guys have great chemistry. I know Eric knows I love him, so this is not news to him. Kevin. Yeah. I'm comfortable saying you might be my favorite guest. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but I think you might be my favorite, and not because I don't love Theo Greminger when he's on. He's like, but I just it's there's a certain thing that we got going here. I enjoy you. So, and by the way, you don't have to return that love. I'm just telling you, I enjoy you.
Hey, you're one of my favorites in the space too, and that's not blowing smoke up your ass.
Yeah, and I don't call out Theo. I call Theo because he's such a good podcaster, and that's why I said
absolutely
he's so good on this podcast. People always ask for him on this one too.
Yep.
All right. I said, and I always say the same thing. Go listen to his damn podcast. Don't give me guest requests. Just go listen to theirs. Like,
right.
Let me book the guests I want.
Right.
All right. So you're all good with Chiefs. How about would you keep Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned him. Like, I think I'm just gonna hold on to him right now.
Okay.
It's like I think him or Elijah Mitchell could be, end up getting cut at the end of training camp. Right. So I think it's gonna be a battle between those two.
Cool. Sorry if you know what, when you mentioned Kareem Hunt, I was dealing with the comments, so that's bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
Bad hosting. All right, so we're up to the Raiders. Trey Tucker's my obvious cut, right?
Yeah, that was going to be it for me too, because Thornton's having shown some upside. I think Beck, he's going to get going here too, so I think those guys are going to be kind of locked in. And after that, there's, some people are still hanging on to Zamir White. I would cut him.
Ooh.
I've cut him pretty much everywhere.
Real. So how about Sincere McCormick? You holding him?
I think he's on the fringe too, but I would probably cut him as well. Yeah, if I had to in those smaller formats.
I'm not saying cut Michael Mayer at tight end, but I mean, is there any? I thought that the Miami. I mean, I know I'm not the only one. Miami. I thought Miami was going to trade like a 5th rounder for him.
Yeah,
Still can, by the way. Still can. That's they're not prohibited, but Mayer, you just have to hold, right? I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah, I think I like this offense with Chip Kelly a little bit. I think he can utilize both of these tight ends. I kind of want to see how it works here with Chip Kelly a little bit. So I'm open to holding him.
Okay, all right, very good. So, and then you're hoping for a trade there, or do you think he has? Can you get anything for him? Would you sell him to like the Brock Bowers owner in like the 30-35 deep leagues where handcuffs matter? What do you think is a reasonable ask for a Mayer to the Bowers owner?
I think a third. Like if you wanted to sell him for a third, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Would I want to sell him for a third? Borderline. Like if I need the roster spot, sure. But if not, I'll just hold on to him because he still has some talent.
I saw a trade in one of my leagues where the Barkley owner traded for Will Shipley and gave up Mayer. I thought that was a good trade to the Bowers owner.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
All right. Dude, we just finished the AFC in 45 minutes. Now, normally this would be the end of the podcast and we do part 2, but it's 4th of July. People are sitting around. They got nothing to do, and we're going to give them the NFC. So we're probably going to go another 45 minutes. Screw it, right?
No, I'm all for it.
Yep. Yeah. How many more? What's the under/over on bathroom breaks for me, knowing that I have the bladder of an 80-year-old man?
I think you got one more in you, so we'll go half.
Half. Okay, and so the over is probably minus 700 on that. You're gonna lay the wood.
Yeah. Minus
oh my God! All right, and you're probably right, by the way. Dallas Cowboys, man, who we cutting?
Yeah, I think I haven't seen Jonathan Mingo on too many waivers yet, so that would probably be my guy here.
Tolbert, how about Tolbert?
I think I would still hold on to Tolbert just because I think he's going to be the starter there, and I think this team is going to have to pass a lot this year. So that's probably somebody I'd hold on to. He's probably like their Michael Gallup, of yesteryear, basically.
Okay. And do you know who their backup quarterback is? I know you know.
It is Joe Milton.
Very good. Very good. Would you call him the highest upside backup right now in the NFL?
Yeah, him or Jackson Dart.
I'm not counting Dart. He's the star. Yeah, because Dart to me is like this. Like if you said Jameis Winston, I would give you that because Dart is just like they're just waiting to unleash him. Yeah. So
I would say there's a lot of upside here with Milton. So I would definitely be holding on to him everywhere if I can.
Who gets more starts this year, Milton or Jameis Winston? I'm just making a joke. Okay, yeah, it's actually a real question then. I mean, it's all injury related.
It's all injury related. And so. I really am high on Dak this year for fantasy. Like I think he's going to have to throw a ton. So,
Will Greer, if he's sitting on your roster, clip right. Goodbye.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
And then let's look at that running back room, which has been much maligned. You have obviously Javonte and Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue. How about Phil Maffa? I picked him up. Deuce Vaughn's the obvious goodbye, but Maffa I picked him up after waivers ran. If I'm in a pinch when the season starts, I mean, I know it's going to depend if he makes the team, but if you have to decide today, actually, what would you do?
I'm still going to hold on to Maffa. I want to see what happens in training camp with him, so I'm still going to hold on to him.
All right, yeah. About 500 people piled in here on 4th of July to watch you, Eric.
So, nice.
Yeah, they want to know who to cut. I mean, if you're sitting at the beach at a pool at a barbecue, like perfect time to go through your Dynasty rosters right now and just start cutting guys and picking some other guys up. Oh, one more thing. Carson Steele, when we hit the Chiefs, are you getting rid of him? Did you say him?
No, I didn't mention him, but yeah, he would probably be a cut for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because I do have him on a roster. Every question I ask you on this podcast is very selfish. It's like
just to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And if someone else benefits, great. If not, I don't care. Yep. All right, Giants. This is an interesting one. I want to put Jalen Hyatt first. I know, didn't he get hurt?
It seemed like it if you looked at the box scores, but the Giants just didn't use him last year. So I think he was kind of in the doghouse.
I meant this year in training camp.
Oh, in training camp. I thought I saw something where he pulled something or did something. Okay. But so yeah, I think so.
So is Hyatt a cut?
Yeah, I think he's a cut. That's a guy. I just think his skill set is something that they needed, but they just don't use him. So the same coaching staff is there. I just think it's going to be the same kind of bullshit again this year. So I'm cutting him.
Slayton is if he's out there, which he's not in a lot of leagues, but I have seen him out there in my 25 rosters. I mean, he's an auto pickup, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a starter. He's played really well, whenever he's in there. So yeah.
Did you see they gave him like real money this year?
Yeah. I mean, he's a solid player. He's not bad.
I'm surprised he went back to the Giants because it seems like the Chiefs or a lot of other teams could have used him.
Yeah, I think so. But he's pretty much the starting guy. He probably likes being with the Giants. He likes this coaching staff and probably has a nice house there and all that. Probably doesn't want to move. I don't blame him.
High taxes, but yeah, no, he probably lives in New Jersey, which is rates might be a little less. So, all right, any of the running backs here? Tyrone Tracy, Singletary, Cam Scatterbu, Eric Gray, and then so Gray.
Eric Gray, if you still have him, I'd cut him. Yeah. I've seen some people still have Tommy DeVito. I'd cut him. I'm almost at the point where I would be comfortable cutting Jameis because I think if Russell Wilson got hurt, it's probably Jackson Dart.
Wow. Jameis is listed as 2, but we know, they're holding Dart till the Boo Birds come out. Like if the Giants start 2-6, 1-4,
and their schedule is brutal.
Oh, is it really? I haven't even taken a look.
Super brutal. Yeah, like they might start out 0-4, legit.
Oh man, but they may not want to push Dart. I don't know. This is such a weird one. I just. Jameis, I don't know. Yeah, all right. So you would cut Jameis. I can't do it.
If I had to, like in these shallower leagues, like you're talking 25, 30, I think I'd be okay cutting him just because I think he's the third quarterback at best. Like if something happens to Russ, they're probably going to push Dart out there.
Yeah, I just think, again, maybe this is crazy, but like if there is a team that needs a quarterback in this offseason, the first one they're going to want to ask about is Jameis Winston.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Like if Jacoby Brissett retires and walks the earth, they're going to need a backup.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Eagles. This is the one I was looking forward to talking about. I just want to introduce the name of Jahan Dotson. I mean, I spent the first round pick on this guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the Eagles and how they run their offense the last couple of years, like they just never use a third wide receiver ever. So if you had to cut Jahan Dotson, I've seen him cut in some leagues. I'm okay with it. If you still have Johnny Wilson, I'd feel fine cutting him too. I know he had some hype last year, but probably Dotson and Wilson.
Dotson's scheduled to be the starting wide receiver. That's why this is hot takey.
Yeah. If in 3 receiver sets, he would be the starter for sure. I still would hang on for hope, but like, there's just not much there.
Dorian Thompson Robinson, even though they traded for him, would you cut him?
Goodbye. Okay. I being a Cleveland fan, he is probably one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched. So
why did the Eagles do this trade for the 5th round pick?
Yeah, the 5th round pick, and probably just take on another quarterback, see what he has, kick the tires.
Right, and then that's in the preseason. If he'll get a game he'll get at least a quarter or a half in the preseason.
Yeah, he'll be the starter in the 4th game, or maybe Kyle McCord will be one of the 2.
There is no 4th game anymore.
Oh, that's right. It's the 3rd game.
That's what I'm saying. They're just gonna, meat grinder, like, hey, push him out there, let him run around. If somebody wants to give a 7th round pick for him, now they got us. Yeah, okay. Yep. All right. I like it. Washington, the Commanders. Who we cutting?
Yeah, so on Washington, let's see here. I've had some conversations in my head about Luke McCaffrey. I think, they brought back Noah Brown. They brought in Debo, drafted Jalen Lane. Some of those guys, I think I would hold on to them still, but I've had that conversation in my head. Now, some of these guys on the back of their depth chart, KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, if people picked him up, I would just cut those guys. I don't think they're going to make the team or be somebody that you want.
And McCaffrey's the one that stings here because I traded up to get him in the 3rd round last year.
Yeah, I would still probably hold on to him in most situations, but like if you're in that 25-man league like you were talking about and it's getting really desperate down there and he's probably the last guy on your roster.
Okay, super quick. The running backs, you have B-Rob, you're holding. Eckler, interesting. We could talk about him. McNichols is right now is the RB3. And then in camp, I mean, we've all seen Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt get picked up here. If you have to cut one of these guys, Merritt, JCM, as they're calling him, or McNichols, who are you cutting?
I would cut McNichols. I think Krosky, Merritt, and I think Chris Rodriguez Jr. is more talented than McNichols too. So I would cut McNichols, and I've cut him in a few spots already.
I heard Austin Eckler on the Establish the Run podcast. Like he was on, too. And he right. Oh, he did. So he was saying that like the team likes McNichols. So,
yeah,
like,
so. I think so too. But no team's going to carry 5 running backs, so one of them's going to have to go.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Very good. Where are we? Okay. So the NFC North, Chicago Bears. Let's start with the quarterback position. Are you just holding on? To Bajan still, right? He's like a high-end backup. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I really like him. So yeah.
And of course, that's super flex league. So who's the obvious cut here?
I think the guy you brought up a little bit ago, Zacchaeus, for them. I think I would cut him.
Yeah, but again, I'm the only idiot holding him. How about is there anyone else that probably is more widely owned that it's time to cut?
Not anybody that I'm seeing. I think the top 3 running backs I want, the top 2 quarterbacks. I mean, you can't cut Cole Kmet. I'd still hold on to him. It's probably Zacchaeus would be the guy because Moore, Odunze, Luther Burden are the only receivers that you want.
So and Travis Homer, I mentioned him earlier as like kind of like as a joke that he could get like a random start for some team we don't even know about in week 12. But if he's sitting on your roster in these deeper 35s plus,
yeah, I remember he had like some run at the end of the last year just because of injuries. But he's purely a special teams guy, so I don't want him.
Okay, all right, we are up to the Detroit Lions. Who's got to go?
Another guy you mentioned earlier, I think Tim Patrick, I'd be okay cutting. They brought in Tesla, who they drafted really high in the 3rd round. I think Tesla gets in there a little bit more too. So I would cut Tim Patrick.
When we do our bold prediction shows, Eric, do you think this is a reasonable bold prediction, or you think this is? I mean, again, it's not likely to happen, but it could happen. This is off topic. I have that Jamison Williams will have more fantasy points, total fantasy points, than Amon-Ra St. Brown this season. Does that have a 15% chance? 15?
Yeah, I think it has like a 15% chance. But Amon-Ra's coming back from surgery, so if he's slow to return from that, I could definitely see it.
Right, that was the thought process there.
Mm-hmm.
That was
I don't think it's crazy.
Okay, all right, very good. So anybody else here on the running back front? You got Jameer, obviously Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, and Vioni. How do you say is Vaki? Yeah. What are you doing with those 2 guys?
I think I would carry Reynolds. They just keep bringing that guy back every year. The coaching staff loves him. Coach loves him. I think I would cut Vaki before I cut Craig Reynolds.
Okay. All right. And again, it's all cut them for who. If there's a backup quarterback. Yeah. Again, I keep using the name. Would you pick up Jacoby Brissett in a Superflex league for one of those guys?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Again, it's not that we love Brissett, but if he gets 2 starts, I mean, even if Jacoby Brissett gets 11 or 12 points, which is a bad quarterback day, I mean, that's still better. Are you getting tired, Eric? Are you getting tired? Is it sleeping?
No, that just snuck up on me.
It's first of all, it's morning time. Am I boring you, Eric? I mean, how dare you yawn?
No. I'm just used to getting up at 4 a.m, so it's like it sneaks up on you sometimes.
I'm only kidding. But call you out. I mean, nothing more insulting than when I'm talking, you're yawning. I mean, Jesus Christ, Eric. All right, I'll forgive you. But I'm making you do a lot of the heavy lift too, so it's taking some energy.
You're good.
Yeah. All right. Green Bay Packers depth chart here. Quarterback position, Eric. We're not. I mean, Malik Willis. He might be the best back. And if you have to yawn again, it's cool. By the way.
No, I like Malik Willis. He's definitely one of my favorite backups in the league to carry right now. So
he's the best backup. I would call him like if we're considering the backups, I might even take him over like some of the starters just for the upside. But he's definitely QB 33 if you have to push those guys to the backups.
Yeah.
Okay. So who are we cutting here?
This is a tough one, man. Like I'm kind of just looking at it like I don't even know who I would cut. Like Yeah, it might be Wicks if I have to choose one, because they're not going to cut Savion Williams or Matthew Golden, who they just brought in, obviously.
Mhm.
Jaden Reed and Dobb they really like. So I think it is Wicks if we have to choose a deep cut here. I think it's Dontavian Wicks.
Okay, would you cut Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson?
Emmanuel Wilson, no. I think Emmanuel Wilson has a shot to still be the backup here because he was all of last year. Chris Brooks, yeah, I've cut everywhere. He's just clogging up a roster spot.
All right, very good. Do you think Jordan Love is good? I mean, last year he didn't deliver on those high, like he was like a top 5 or 7 preseason ranked quarterback for fantasy, and then just didn't deliver. Do you like him as like a rebound buy low type?
Yeah, for sure. I think, last year they ran the ball a lot more than they had in previous years, and Josh Jacobs had a hell of a year. So I think that contributed with it. Jordan Love through an injury all of last year too. Remember, he got hurt in that opening game against the Eagles. And I think that kind of affected him all season long. So yeah, I think Jordan Love's a great buy low guy.
All right. Minnesota Vikings. I want to start with the Ty Felton stuff that you talked me into. Remember, I don't know if you remember last time I was on the clock. We got off this podcast and you had hyped up Ty Felton, the rookie they drafted, and I passed on Woody Marks. I was pissed at you because Woody Marks was looking like, hey, immediate playing time, Joe Mixon, and now Woody Marks, now I think I'd rather have Ty Felton over the Houston running back. Do you agree with that? Are you still high on Felton as someone that could be at least like, if Addison misses a few games, useful in fantasy?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would put him over Jalen Naylor too, personally. Yes. And then, like you said, if Addison misses some games, and I remember listening to that podcast. It was like the week or two after I was on, and you were
cursing you,
MFing me, yeah.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I always need somebody to blame, so I never like to take accountability for this kind of stuff. All right, Josh Oliver, backup tight end, no way, right?
Yeah, I would probably be willing to cut him. Yeah.
All right. All right. So
Ty Chandler, I would probably cut. I like Ty Chandler. He's one of my rookies that I really liked when he was coming out. I just think Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are kind of going to be the guys there. But if I had to choose the one guy, it's Jalen Naylor. I think Felton passes him up, and he's a 4th receiver, so I'll go with Jalen Naylor.
And Chandler, I mean, he's had opportunities to start, and it just hasn't worked. So it's like, even if he gets a start, I mean, it's like, you'd have to have both Jones and maybe the path for him is if Aaron Jones misses a game, that Chandler is like the 7 touches, and that's if you're lucky, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Chandler had that really good game for you in the playoffs a couple years ago with against the Bengals in the fantasy playoffs. So. He's still somebody I like, but if you had to cut him, I don't mind it.
Okay. All good ones. Atlanta Falcons. Who we cutting?
Oh, so Atlanta. This is another team that just doesn't have a lot of talent.
McLeod. Let's start with him. Would you cut him, Ray McLeod?
I still personally am rostering him everywhere, so I would hold on to him. Honestly, I don't think there is a cut on this team because of all the guys that most people own. You want to own these guys. Bijan and Algier, only 2 running backs. Penix and Cousins, only 2 quarterbacks. Pitts is the only tight end I want, and then Mooney, London, McLeod are the only receivers anybody owns. So I don't think there is one.
All right. So if you're forced to pick one, McLeod is like, even though you don't want to cut
McLeod,
him.
Yeah.
I have cut him in a couple spots where, again, it's like I maybe I need to go relook at that, but I picked up a 3rd running back on a team. Maybe that's not good because McLeod was giving you like 9 fantasy points last year.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently. Like you could put him in there and know that it wasn't a goose egg, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So McLeod, if you have to, other than that, try to hold all these guys. That's rare, by the way. Very rare.
Yeah. I mean, we've almost gone through every team, and that's the only one so far.
Okay. We are Carolina Panthers, and you know what's coming. This is we're over an hour or so, which is fine, no big deal, but this is bathroom break for me. So keep it going. Okay. I'll be right back with you. You're going Carolina Panthers. Yep.
So here on the Panthers, I still want to hold Bryce Young and Dalton. So those are your 2 quarterbacks. Running backs, you're keeping Chuba, you're keeping Dowdle, you're keeping Trevor Etienne. Any of the other guys, you can feel free to cut. Wide receivers, though. So we got Tet McMillan, we got Leggett, Adam Thielen, Jimmy Horn Jr., who they really like as well. I'm going to keep those guys. Jalen Coker, I think you're keeping him as well. He's another guy that they really like. I've seen some people pick up Hunter Renfrow. Like, I liked Hunter Renfrow as a player, one of my sneaky favorite players, but he's not making this team. If he does, it's like as the sixth receiver. So if you were one of those guys who picked him up, I'd cut him. I think the one that I would cut from this team who's listed as the starter right now would be Tommy Tremble. I think they are going. He did get hurt, and he's probably going to be slow into training camp or maybe miss, some of training camp. I liked Mitchell Evans, who they drafted in the 5th round. Jatavian Sanders last year was really good. So if I have to pick one from this team, it's probably going to be Tommy Tremble.
Holding Andy Dalton in Superflex.
Yep, I'll hold Dalton. He's still solid backup. They got 5 receivers here that I like having, so that's kind of rare too. But I kind of want to see how it plays out.
Saints. Who we cutting?
Saints. So on the Saints, this is the one that I was talking about in my head, and honestly, I think it's Kendre Miller.
Ooh.
As much as I like Kendre Miller, if you followed my content, I was one of his biggest fans when he was coming out. But they brought in Devin Neal. They just brought in Cam Akers. They signed Marcus Yarns, who was one of the best, undrafted free agent running back pickups. So they brought in 3 guys. Like, I think this new regime kind of realizes, Kendre's had his chances, can't stay healthy, all that stuff. I think I'm okay cutting Kendre Miller here, and if he beats me, he beats me. I'll let somebody else deal with him.
So you would hold Neal and Cam Akers over Miller?
Yes.
And then obviously CEH. I mean, that's
he's probably on 75% of our waiver wires right now. So right. I would feel okay cutting him.
All right, man. Tampa Bay. Who are you cutting from the Tampa Bay roster?
I just want to bring this up. I've never seen this on a depth chart before. They have a left tight end and a right tight end, and they literally have 9 tight ends listed on their freaking depth chart. That's crazy.
You're talking about on New Orleans.
Yeah. I'm just looking at our lads right now. They have a left tight end and a right tight end, and they literally have 9 tight ends listed. That is crazy. Okay. I've never seen that.
Okay, just for people listening, that is pretty crazy. This is their tight end depth chart. They have Jawan, Taysom, Foster Moreau, a guy named Jack Stoll, Malaki Motavo. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think you hit it.
Holker. I mean, I've never heard of some of these guys, and I know every player. I think more.
Yeah, Holker was a UDFA tight end last year from Colorado State. That's somebody that a lot of people held on to. He never got to play last year. Stoll was just a blocker. Matavo, he was pretty decent prospect coming out, so I kind of like him, but that's like for super deep leagues.
Jawan Johnson's the player to own there, right? I mean, obviously Taysom.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I if you're still holding on to Foster Moreau, I would cut him in those shallow leagues.
Yeah, and by the way, Taysom Hill's injury was very late in the season. He may not play until like after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yep. So he's probably going to be somebody that, you could get away with probably cutting him.
Wow. Okay. You would take a 5th rounder for him then if you would cut him, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Tampa Bay. Who are you cutting?
So on Tampa Bay, this is another tough one. I think if you're still holding on to Sterling Shepard from last year, I would cut him for sure. This is another team. Like, I want the top 3 running backs. Baker, Kyle Trask is probably not one of the backups I want to roster, so that's probably another one. I like all 3 tight ends of K. Dotton, Payne Durham, and Devin Culp, who they had last year play towards the end of last year. I think another one you could get away with cutting is because he has such a long road to get there is Tez Johnson. Just drafted him probably, but he's the 5th wide receiver at best on this team going forward with Evans, Godwin, Ibuka, and McMillan ahead of him.
So if you have Kyle Trask, that's the one that stood out to me. Even though he's directly the backup in an offense we like, you would not, if you were pushed in roster crunch, you're okay dropping him for like what type of player?
If I could pick up, if Sean Tucker was out there from the same team, I'd rather have Sean Tucker. If Cam Akers is out there, I'd rather have Cam Akers.
There you go. That's someone who, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow. Because you just think Kyle Trask, if he gets starts, is just no upside whatsoever.
I honestly don't know what I got in him because I've never seen him play outside of preseason.
Right. And how was he in preseason? I don't even remember watching him.
He was, mediocre at best.
All right. So, we're going through this these depth charts, and we're doing this like at double the speed that you guys do it, which again, I think I like the way you do it, but how do you feel? Is this like, even though this is a different rhythm and pace, do you like this? You feel good about moving along quickly like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the fantasy space or who listens to content is pretty smart when it comes to this stuff. So like they know like, okay, I'm not, carrying this sixth running back on this team. Like I think most of those are already off your roster. So it's good to like go through just like the top 3 or 4 or 5 on each spot and go through it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because this is again a little tease. When you guys do, by the way, when you guys do all this stuff, I like that it's 3 hours long or 2 hours and change. It's it just gives me more stuff to listen to. All right, the Arizona Cardinals, Zay Jones right now is listed as a starter. Are you cutting him?
Yeah, I'm comfortable cutting him. I'm comfortable cutting Greg Dortch too. Like I think both of those guys played last year quite a bit, and they didn't really do anything. So I'm okay cutting them. Yeah. For
some team, some leagues, they drafted Tip Ryman last year was a rookie. I mean, you don't want him on your roster, right?
No, I'd rather have Elijah Higgins, who's behind him, because I think if McBride got hurt, Higgins is the one who would do all the receiving work. So I would rather have Elijah Higgins over Tip Ryman.
Okay. Clayton Tune, goodbye. Third quarterback at this point.
Yeah, as soon as they signed Brissett, he was gone.
Okay, and then DeMercado and DJ Dallas are the running backs that would be on my bubble. What would you do with those guys?
I like DeMercado still. I would hold on to him. DJ Dallas, I think, is more of a special teams guy, so he's gone. Michael Carter got some run last year, but as the 5th running back on this team, I would cut him.
Okay. Carter's one of those guys I could see being picked up like in week 9 because there's injuries all over the place.
Injuries, yeah.
Right. Okay. But you don't need to hold him until that happens. No. You could just, okay. All right. Very good. The Rams, who we cutting, Eric?
Ooh, so on the Rams, let's see here. This is another tough one. Like I think Adams, Puka, Tutu Atwell, Whittington I like Kanata Mumfield, who they drafted. After that, you're probably not carrying any of those receivers.
So you would hold Atwell?
Yeah, I would hold Atwell. He's listed as a starter right now. I think they like using him. I think the ones I would cut here, and I've cut a bunch of them, are Colby Parkinson and Davis Allen. I think those guys got passed up by Tyler Higbee coming off a major injury at the end of last year, and they drafted Terrence Ferguson in the 2nd round. So I think those guys are going to be like the 3rd and 4th tight ends at best, so I'm cutting them.
Right. Players that are like desperate at tight end fantasy players. I think Tyler Higbee's a little bit of a sneaky buy, right? Like, because whoever had him last year didn't need him. They had, they obviously got by, and he's, Terrence Ferguson's looked at as like the up and coming guy. So I bought Higbee in a couple spots at I was on the clock at like 309 and it was, a premium 175 or something like that. I was like, all right, I'll take Higbee. It's so hard to get tight ends,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. So Atwell you're holding, Whittington you're holding. I was surprised. I thought those 2 guys you were going to cut.
I think if I had to cut one of those, it would be Atwell. I like Whittington and what he showed last year compared to Atwell. So I would hold Whittington over Atwell if I had to.
49ers, who we clipping?
Oh, all right. So on San Francisco here, yeah, they have a lot of guys. I think DeMarcus Robinson I'd be okay cutting. I just don't see him I like a lot of these rookies. They brought in Watkins and Jacob Cowing. I like those guys quite a bit. So I would be fine cutting DeMarcus Robinson on this one.
On that super deep league that I told you, which again, to you, it's like not even super deep, it sounds like, but Jacob Cowing, you're holding him? I mean, I know last year he didn't really get a shot as a rookie, so you still like him. There's already injuries on that team all over the place.
Right, and I think Ayuk's going to be slow to come back to, even though, all reports say he's looking really good. I would still hold on to Cowing because at least he knows the system. So I give him the slight edge over Jordan Watkins, who they drafted in the 4th round too. So I think there's a possibility maybe Cowing can start, early on in the season if Ayuk's not ready to go.
Any backup tight ends would you hold here? Dwelly or Luke Farrell?
No, they've never used a second tight end unless Kittle was hurt, so I don't want any of them.
By the way, in redraft, Eric, I'm taking Kittle in the 3rd round, man. I'm not even touching the Brock Bowers and McBride in round 1 or 2. Not that they're going to be bad, but I mean, you can get like probably similar production, right? I mean, is Kittle one of the
Yeah.
better picks this year in 3-4 turn?
I think so, yeah. I do a lot of FFPC drafts, and yeah, Bowers goes in round 1, McBride goes at the 1-2 turn. Like I can't pay that price. Even the Kittle price, I have a hard time going because, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce and those guys fall to like round 6, 7, 8 range. Like I think I'd rather dabble in that range than I would spending the super high pick on one of those guys, to be honest.
Right. And FFPC is tight end premium, and the NFFC,
Yes.
which has the RotoWire Online Championship, where it's single PPR, those push everyone down another round, more or less.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
By the way, for any NFFC players, I'm doing a couple drafts coming up. It's like they call them Beat Alan Seslowsky. So if you beat me, you get a free 3-month, I think, subscription to RotoWire. But also, the drafts are high stakes. You're $350 to play. $350 entry. There's $250,000 grand prize, but I'm going to be running them. They're up on NFFC right now. I'll put them in the video description. If anyone here likes playing high stakes, I'm doing one. They're called matinee drafts, Eric. So they're at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and it's on Wednesday, July 23rd, and then Wednesday, July 30th. I'm going to be live streaming those. So if you want to get in those, I'll add them to the video description. You can jump in those drafts and try to beat me.
Well, I might have to join one.
Oh, you like the high stakes player, huh? 350?
Oh yeah. I did some NFFC drafts last year, and I've done FFPC high stakes drafts. Yeah, they're fun.
All right, well, I'll put the links in there, and of course you're invited. I just set them up yesterday, and the NFFC is fun. They have the 3rd round reversal, single PPR. It's only single quarterback and non-tight end premium, but I like being in a couple leagues like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everything has to be super flex. Yep. So, all right. Running back room in San Francisco. Jordan James is a rookie. You're probably holding him as the QB3. Patrick Taylor can go, and Izzy Banakanda can go.
Yeah, I like the Banakanda coming out, but he just hasn't done anything, so he can go. Taylor can go. Corey Kiner is very, very fringe guy that you'd even want. So, I just want the top 3: McCaffrey, Garendo, James.
All right, our last team is the Seattle Seahawks. Let's start with the running back room. Are you holding McIntosh, Damian Martinez? Obviously the top 2 guys you're holding.
Yeah, McIntosh, he can go. I'll hold Damian Martinez over him since this regime drafted him. The other regime didn't draft McIntosh, so I'll hold Damian over him, and I like Damian better. Receiver-wise...
What are you doing MVS?
I think he's going to have a good role here because they're... offensive coordinator that they have, I believe it's Kubiak, is there now. He had him with the Saints last year, so he saw what he can do in his offense. So I'll be okay holding on to MVS.
All right, so because I've seen him out there in some leagues, and in non-best ball, and I know it's not a lot, but there's a couple, and they're still like 30 deeps, but people just don't want him because he's not predictable. But you like him a little bit better in this system.
Yeah, just because he did have some success with this system last year and all that. So I like him. He's listed as a starter too. They've talked about him as the starter, so I like that. I like the 2 rookies behind them, Horton and Ricky White. I like both of those guys. So if you still have Jake Bobo from a couple years ago, I'd be okay cutting him. And then this is a rare team where they got 3 tight ends where I'd want to carry. So I'm going to carry all 3 tight ends too.
So you want Fant, Barner, and Arroyo.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
And another guy too is Drew Lock. I think I'd be okay cutting Drew Lock.
Ooh, okay. This is hot takey, and I'll tell you why. That if there was an injury in like week 2 or week 3, I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be the starter.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Right. So you're willing to throw Drew Lock back in there, knowing in week 3 or right when there's a bye week in week 4 or 5, wherever the first bye is, that Drew Lock is in play in Superflex. That one I'm holding on, but maybe it's because I aggressively drafted him in the COVID drafts in 2020 when he was like a starter.
Yeah, I mean, I like the talent. I think he has some talent still, but when he has had the chance, other than that, if you started him in week 17 last year when he went crazy for the Giants,
right?
I don't really think there's too much there anymore. And I think Milroe obviously is eventually going to be, could be the starter here, probably later on in the season. So,
right. At very minimum, Milroe like has that Malik Willis upside where he could just run around crazy, be like the best backup in the league, to a Jaden Daniels type of Lamar Jackson type.
Yeah, I think that's his floor for sure.
Eric, you did it, man. You all 32 teams.
You did it.
You went through and you told us who to cut, who to pick up. Amazing. I just want to remind everyone again, Eric Vanek is over at South Harmon Fantasy Football. It's what's your current Twitter handle? Is it _ Eric _ Vanek or NFL? What is it? Tell everybody.
It's at Eric Vanek NFL. Yep.
Okay, so no underscore. I don't know why I thought you were an underscore guy. The underscore thing has got to be annoying, right? Yeah, I mean, for people that have that, it's like all these different symbols.
There's definitely some ones that are out there, like they did it when they were like in high school as their name, and you're like, right. I wish I could change that back.
Twitter doesn't let you change your name?
They might, but you might have to like contact somebody to do it. I'm not sure how that
forget
works.
that. Not easy. Not doing that. Not doing that. All right. Also, just
exactly.
another reminder, 25% off any RotoWire subscription right now. Use code PURPLE to get 25% off at rotowire.com after July 7th, because that expires on July 7th. And then anytime you can get 15% off for the rest of the summer using code YouTube15. All right, Eric Vanek. We'll be back next week with another Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast.